to From Laura's Perspective, and welcome back to the Current Events series. For this second installment, I've been requested by a subscriber to make a video essay discussing the recent tragedy in Uvalde, Texas. Here in my home country of America, school shootings are a very common reality, but it doesn't make them any less devastating. And the recent one in Texas is no exception. The shooting, which took place on May 24th, 2022, was carried out by 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, who had already shot and wounded his grandmother before killing 19 students and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, where the majority of students are Hispanic or Latino and come from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds. The nature and casualties of this shooting have made it the deadliest elementary school shooting since the Sandy Hook shooting of 2012. But how did this happen? And what's going to happen moving forward? The school district of Uvalde, Texas, where the shooting took place, is located 60 miles east of the U.S.-Mexico border. 90% of all students at Robb Elementary School are Hispanic, and 81% come from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds. At the time of the shooting, Robb Elementary School had multiple security measures in place, including 6 police officers on campus at all times, threat assessment teams, a social media examining software called Social Sentinel, fence enclosures around campus, and a door locking policy, just as a few examples. The shooter, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, was himself a former student of Uvalde High School. Despite his lack of criminal record and documented health issues, Ramos was said to have been bullied harshly for his strong lisp throughout his high school career, from which he dropped out just shy of graduating. Those who knew Ramos claimed they saw many red flags, including videos he'd posted online of himself abusing animals, dropping hints of wanting to obtain assault rifles, and aggressive behavior and language towards family members. The morning of May 24th, 2022, Salvador Ramos shot and wounded his 66-year-old grandmother over an argument they'd had about an internet bill. Ramos then drove his grandmother's Ford pickup truck to an elementary school he'd private messaged a girl from Germany about his intentions to, quote-unquote, shoot up. When Ramos got to the school, he crashed the truck through a barricade and into a concrete ditch outside of Robb Elementary School at approximately 11:28 a.m. After this, Ramos entered the building through a propped open door with an AR-15 rifle. After the shots from his gun were heard, Robb Elementary School locked down at 11:43 a.m. At 12:03 p.m., 19 law enforcement officers made their way toward the classroom Ramos was shooting in, but under the orders of Officer Pedro Pete Arredondo, they did not enter the classroom, as Arredondo intended to obtain more officers and equipment before conducting a tactical breach. Upon hearing the gunshots, 4th grade teacher Irma Garcia attempted to lock the door of her classroom, room 112, but Ramos shot the window of the door, cornered Garcia, and whispered, "Good night," before shooting and killing her. Ramos then said, "You're all gonna die," before opening fire on several students in the classroom. While the shooting was happening, multiple students pretended to be dead in order to avoid being shot down themselves. Most notably, 11-year-old Maya Cirillo did so by smearing herself with the blood of one of her dead classmates. At one point, Pete Arredondo declared that the situation was no longer that of an active shooter, but that of a barricaded subject. As such, police officers employed by the school refused to enter the building, let alone the classroom Ramos was shooting up. After the officers declined parents' pleas to go inside and intervene, the parents offered to enter the building and rescue the children themselves, to which police aggressively objected. By the time the shooting was over, 19 students and 2 teachers had been killed, all of whom came from 3rd and 4th grade classrooms. In addition, 18 others were injured, including Ramos's grandmother. According to the Uvalde Memorial Hospital CEO, 11 children and 3 other people were admitted for emergency care after the shooting. 4 of these patients were eventually released, and 2 were confirmed to be dead upon arrival. Many of these victims were transferred to the San Antonio branch of University Hospital. Just after the shooting, the parents of Robb Elementary School were contacted and asked that, despite the strong urges they were feeling, they do not come pick their children up until all students were accounted for. Around 2 p.m., the parents were then asked to pick their students up due to school bus cancellations. In wake of the recent tragedy, the Uvalde district decided to end the school year slightly early, including canceling all end-of-the-year activities. A memorial commemorating the victims of the shooting has been placed outside of Robb Elementary School, which includes balloons, candles, and crosses. In addition, there were multiple group and individual memorial and funeral services for each of the victims in Uvalde, surrounding areas, and throughout the country, to which it's been reported that an anonymous donor contributed $175,000. Irma Garcia's widower, Joe Garcia, died of a heart attack 2 days after the shooting while attending a memorial service. Some say that Joe actually died of a broken heart as a result of his wife's death, which to me is not unlikely. Although it was nowhere near the first school shooting to do so, the Robb Elementary School shooting sparked widespread debate on various aspects of American politics, particularly gun control. U.S. President Joe Biden gave a speech the day of the shooting in which he claimed he was sick and tired of the ubiquitous nature of such gun violence in America and called for our congressmen to pass what he referred to as common sense gun laws. However, just like after most mass shootings, all our congressmen really did in response to this shooting was offer thoughts and prayers. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, on the other hand, disagreed with Biden, claiming that mental health problems are the cause of this senseless violence, and praised law enforcement for what he believed to be a quick and brave response to the shooting. But as Biden put it, mental health problems are quite prevalent in other countries as well, but they don't have the same rate of gun violence we do here in the United States. And the police response to the Robb Elementary School shooting was itself quite controversial. The U.S. police force has been under tight scrutiny ever since the killing of George Floyd back in 2020, with some even going so far as to claim that all cops are bastards and are not quite the heroes we make them out to be. Seeing as how the police officers stationed at Robb Elementary waited 78 minutes on site before breaching a classroom to engage Ramos, and the chief labeled what was actually an active shooter situation as a barricaded subject, many called these officers out for their lack of action. In fact, even Governor Abbott himself, who initially praised the police for their so-called response, called for an investigation of these officers' conduct by the Texas Ranger Division and U.S. Department of Justice. Thank you all so much for watching. No matter how many times I hear about a shooting, it's always so sad and makes me wonder what kind of sick person would do such a thing. In fact, the more I hear about it, the more I wonder why our congressmen and women who have an obligation to our country won't do something about it. By that I mean something besides thoughts and prayers, like imposing harsher restrictions on the weapons that are used to kill these poor children. Please know that, just like always, I try to discuss this difficult topic in the most sensitive, unbiased way possible. If you think I did a good job of that, please give this video a big thumbs up. If not, please offer some constructive criticism in the comments down below about how I could approach this better. Although I simply had to address a horrible tragedy that recently happened in my home country, if you tune into my next video, you'll get to hear me get back into talking about some more fun stuff. See you then!